Of Hub Radio Phoenix, it's the Jay Lawrence Show. Now, here's Jay.
I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us while I get my earphones on here.
What are you doing over here, man?
Well, I know. There are no earphones. Well, we'll just have to let it go. Mark Fincham is our guest, State Representative Mark Fincham. By the way, the first person I met when I became a state representative, I was introduced to Mark Fincham by then Speaker. And I was going to lunch and Mark was working, which is typical of Mark Fincham. Mark, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Pull
appreciate
that microphone
I
close.
appreciate the opportunity to appear on your show, Jay.
There are so many questions that you face as a legislator today and as a candidate for Secretary of State. Why did you decide to run?
For Secretary of State,
Yes.
I got a grandson. I've got grandchildren. I've got the memories of, for example, all the young men that left Traverse City, Michigan to fight in World War II and the few that came home.
Yeah.
Whether the Uniparty, the worldwide communist network wants to recognize it or not, we are citizens, we are not subjects. And I'm 64 years old. The communist left, also known as the ongoing criminal enterprise, the Democrat Party.
Democrat Party, right.
You know, they've done everything they can to destroy me, and what they've actually done is galvanized, I think, the attitude of people that no longer want to put up with their lies, their innuendo, their mudslinging. The people of Arizona have had enough, and quite frankly, I was recruited by a lot of people who said we need to have somebody who we know will stand up for fraud-free elections, stand in the gap for a transparent system, who will ensure our right to scrutinize elections, and who will faithfully execute the laws that the legislature sets down. You know, the thing that we've seen with our current Secretary of State, she apparently forgot that she's no longer in the legislature and she wants to try and make law through the courts. My position on that is the legislature exists as an autonomous body that is there to make law. And the executive branch, which is the governor, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, all of those offices are there to carry out the law. We're not there to make law. And it is my hope that if I'm elected, I'll be able to do that in a manner befitting that office, as opposed to the radical insertion of somebody's opinion as to how things should be done. And it's kind of reminds me of the Obama days. You know,
Is that what we have today, Mark?
that's what we have today. We've got a lawless society. We've got school districts and city councils and county governments who are all political subdivisions of the state, essentially telling the state of Arizona, the legislature, the governor, to bugger off. We're going to do whatever we want to do, and you're not going to stop us.
Mark, someone's failing then. There is a failure of leadership. Yes? No?
Absolutely. It is a failure of leadership. But we have to view this as a team. So the state government consists of the three branches of government. We have the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So when the governor doesn't step in and say, no, by executive order, you're not going to put masks on little children in public schools, or you're not going to teach critical race theory, when the governor doesn't do that, there's a lack of leadership. When the legislature does not make it clear that if you insist on those behaviors, we are not going to give you money, there's a failure of leadership. When the judges don't place emphasis on the cases that come before them to say, no, you're going to live by the letter of the law, there's a failure of leadership. So I think that the grand American experience this experiment that we have right now, I think one of the things that we have to take solace in is that we've got an opportunity to prove that the consent of the governed really does matter. And that means every parent who has a child in the public school system, if your school system is telling you that your kids are going to have to wear a mask or that they're going to have to go through critical race theory, I'm telling you, pull them out of the public school system today. It'll be inconvenient. You might have to find a co-op school, another school system. You might even have to do homeschooling. But at the end of the day, if you love your children, I think that it's probably one of the most important things that you can do to rescue them from what I believe is child abuse.
Mark, how does the Secretary of State enter into the discussion about which you're speaking? How does Secretary of State, that has never struck me as the office that controls some of the things about which you're speaking.
Well, it's not, and I'm in this very interesting position right now. I have one more term as a state legislator, and then once that is done, roughly a year from now, I will transition out of that office and back into public life. I'll no longer be a representative. I'll just be one of the citizens.
I think you'll find that comfortable for
Well, I hope so.
Based on all
so.
that's going on in the legislature.
Yeah, but look, God made me with a heart for service.
Yes.
And, 21 years as a DPS officer in West Michigan, fighting fires, fighting bad guys, working as a paramedic to save as many lives as I could. When I retired from that position, I still pursued jobs that had a relationship to serving other people. So it's a natural transition for me to be in service to my community, and that's where I feel most comfortable. So we'll have another go at it, and if the people of Arizona choose me as their Secretary of State, what I can guarantee them is that I will fight for them just as hard in that office as I have in the state legislature and as hard as I did on the streets of Kalamazoo, Michigan as a DPS officer.
Our guest is Mark Finchem. I'm very glad that Mark has chosen to join us tonight. I want to talk about the audit. Mark, your thoughts on the audit going on now.
So
prove it.
I came prepared for this interview tonight. So if people would like to get their own hashtag Prove It t-shirt, they can visit me at votefinchem.com. Just click on the store and you can choose your shirt size, and we'll try and get it to you.
votefinchem.com is a good place to be, no matter what.
That's right. So with the audit, I want to make sure that people understand the purpose of the audit, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there around what the premise of the audit was. And unfortunately, the Mockingbird media, the radical left news media that is now, I think, coming around, actually, they've tried to make this into Trump's audit. And quite frankly, that narrative has just totally failed. The purpose of the audit, and I'm very proud, by the way, of Senator Sonny Borrelli and Karen Fann, Senator Eddie Farnsworth, when he issued the first subpoenas. I'm very proud of these individuals because I think they exhibited American courage. The purpose of the audit is to prove or disprove the alleged discrepancies in the election. Hard stop. This is not a wild goose chase. This is a methodical, evidentiary investigation of what happened in the 2020 election. And I think that we as a free people, if we surrender the right to ask questions of our government, quite frankly, I don't trust the government for anything. Not a thing.
You're part of that government. By the way, Mark Finchem, have you noticed on your card it says Representative, State of Arizona? You're part of that government.
But I'm not a part of the bureaucracy. Okay, so you have the bureaucracy that picks up the law and is supposed to run with the law. But quite frankly, most of the time the bureaucracy does what it bloody well thinks. Does it follow the law? Perhaps. But quite often you have executives in various branches. We've got a number of different elected organizations around the state. You've got the county supervisors who obviously don't give a whit about the law. because they've essentially told the state senate to bugger off on the Splunk logs and the routers.
Right.
Okay, so here's a question I'd like to have answered. So, Jack Sellers, the Chinese Communist Party paid for your trip to China. Who's your allegiance to? Now, I'm sure that's probably going to provoke some kind of a response in his Twitter channel.
I don't
tonight.
think it'll provoke any response at all. I think it will be ignored.
Probably.
I know that we have
perhaps.
we've attempted to ask him to join us on the air here. I know that Ron Lutters places regular emails.
Well, and
to
see,
him.
that's part of the problem that we have with some of our elected officials. They seem to think that they're above the law, as though we have a two-tiered judicial system. Now, there's a book that I'd love to turn your listening audience, your viewing audience onto. It's called The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates. Did you know that every single PC in the state of Arizona has the power to affect public policy?
No.
They do. Because the lowest office, as some would say, I actually call it the highest office, is a PC, a precinct committeeman. Because those individuals elect leadership in their local legislative district. They elect leadership at the state party. They elect leaders to be a part of the ballot that we put forward.
Mark, let me interrupt you because we're getting away from the audit. I know that you're wearing a T-shirt and urging people to come to your website and maybe buy the T-shirt.
Well, actually, the T-shirt's free.
Ah,
But they do give a slight political contribution of perhaps $40 to $50.
as well they should.
So
Let's
the
get
audit,
back to the audit.
back to the question of the audit. I think that we're probably, I'm guessing, 2 to 3 weeks away from a report. One of the problems that has vexed this system is that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors has chosen to ignore legal subpoenas. And that's what I'm talking about when we have a lawless government. We have people who are willing to sacrifice the office. They took an oath of office. I would ask them to go back and revisit that oath, by the way. But if we don't have the routers and we don't have the Splunk logs, we have an incomplete audit report. And we're left thinking that there is a gaping hole in the question of whether or not we experienced a cyber attack that could have altered the outcome of our election. Now, their refusal to provide that information, that equipment, simply promotes that idea.
It's outrageous.
It is outrageous. And I hope that when there's an election for the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, everybody remembers that these people do not give a whit about what you think or whether or not you matter. You're a vote. You've been reduced to a commodity.
They claim, Mark, the supervisors claim that they have voted for the audit. I don't know that they have, but there is some, prove it, there is some question about whether or not the supervisors voted for that audit.
Well, I would say by their behavior, their refusal to comply with the subpoenas. They may have voted for the audit in name, but they certainly haven't voted for it in action. I mean, that's kind of like, do you walk the talk or you just talk the talk? And quite frankly, the fact that they have assailed President Fan and the Senate and the legislature, the fact that Stephen Richer has decided to go after me personally on Twitter, begs the question, when you don't have facts on your side, you always try to take out the messenger. So for all of those who are in leadership in the Maricopa County government, you're a political subdivision of the state. I think you need to start acting like one, because we are about to take 10% of your state shared revenue. That is a application that Senator Borelli made to the AG's office on Friday. And I wholeheartedly support Senator Borelli in his action. In fact, we're now starting to look at other things that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors has done that are also violations of state statute. And if that means that we end up taking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of state shared revenue from the county, so be it. All we wanted to do was an audit. We didn't want to start a war.
Mark, have you any idea at this moment of some of the audit results? Let me pause for a moment, and we will get back to that momentarily. This is the Jay Lawrence Show. I'm glad you're here. This is a commercial for an auto dealership. Well, not really. It's a commercial for a salesperson at an auto dealership. The dealership is Wright Toyota on Frank Lloyd Wright. The salesperson is Jason Carter. I want you to remember that name, Jason Carter. My wife and I have bought our last 6 autos from him. I've sent relatives and friends to see Jason at Wright Toyota. If you're financing, Jason will work with the finance department to get you the lowest payments. Jason, here's what you're looking for. He knows what's there on the grounds. He knows where to find the exact automobile for which you're looking. And there's no time limit to his service. So there's no insistence that you buy the automobile he shows you. If it's a new Toyota or a formerly owned auto, any brand, any label, please call Jason Carter, 480-299-6474. Jason Carter, 480-299-6474.
To roof work, people ask, do you know a guy? Let me save you a little time and money. Call me. I'm Lori Clark, owner of Right Way Roofing. Our family started in the roofing business in 1963 on the promise, there's only one way, the right way. We protect your roof with thick, waterproof, rubberized asphalt, not felt paper. So when it's time to repair or replace your roof and you need a guy, I'm your girl.
We're Right Way Roofing and we do it right. We'll always keep you watertight.
You have a great business, terrific products, outstanding services. So where is everybody? It's simple. They don't know you're here. Why not? We didn't tell them. Well, let me introduce you to the Media Maven. She is the expert in getting your advertising message to the right people in the right places for the right prices. She can make your business a household name. She can make this claim because she's been doing this for years for large and small businesses. You need an expert who knows who to talk to and how to make the best deal for your business. She has the right radio and television contacts for your budget, whatever it is. That's Kathy, the Media Maven. She can put you on the map, the one that leads to success and prosperity. Call Kathy, the Media Maven, at 602-524-0947. That's Kathy, the Media Maven, at 602-524-0947.
You're watching Jay Lawrence on Hub Radio Phoenix.
I am so glad you are here. Thank you for letting us be part of your television viewing wherever you are. I understand we have viewers in China. From what I hear.
What a surprise. They want to know what's going on in Arizona, whether or not they succeeded or not.
They want us to play ping pong.
Oh, is that
That's what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Our guest is State Representative Mark Finchem. Mark is running for the office of Secretary of State, and we were talking about the audit. Do we have any idea at this point, Mark, what some of the results of that audit might be?
Yeah, there's the audit report will show discrepancies, but I think the larger question is, what's going on with the voter registration rolls? And I don't know that is something that was included in the audit work plan.
As Secretary of State, you will have some fingers in that pie.
Well, I would have some responsibility with making sure that the voter rolls are as clean as possible.
Yes.
Now, obviously the individuals who want to affect our elections in a nefarious way, they would just as soon see that our voter rolls are as dirty as possible, because that allows them to manipulate the election through movement of votes and through the submission of ballots for fictitious people and all that. That's why I think it's really important. Steve Bannon has coined the phrase, along with Peter Navarro, it's the canvas, not the count. It really is the canvas. So one of the things that we've noticed, and this is an investigation I've been doing down in Pima County, which has nothing to do with the Senate audit, and I know it's off track of the question you asked, but it's demonstrative of what's going on.
You have never had a problem with a question being asked and digressing. You are a great guest.
What I'm just trying to make.
I could just
I'm trying
say,
to make the point.
hi,
here.
Mark Fincham's here with us. I'll be back after I have dinner.
No, Pima County, we think we've found about 35,000 fictitious votes. Yeah,
Really?
in the voter registration files. Now, the only way that we can verify that is to go out and knock on doors. But they're hiding these voters in a place that you would never think to look. So that's as far as I can go with that right now, because we don't want to see
Okay.
them go in and delete things. But so, for example, with some of the stuff that came out in the hearing with the Senate a couple of weeks ago, we've got people who voted after voting day. We've got people who voted after the legal day for registration. We've got people who voted and then mysteriously evaporated, just disappeared in the voter rolls. So the question becomes, is the margin of error greater than or less than the margin of victory of the current occupant of the White House? That's the question that everybody wants to know an answer to, and I think that it would be foolhardy, it would be foolish of us to suppose right now that that's a foregone conclusion. One of the things that we have been that the Senate has been very focused on, and I need to be very clear. The Senate, this is an all-Senate show. I'm in the House of Representatives. I support the Senate wholeheartedly in what they're doing. In fact, I've been, I think, in 5 or 6 different cities. I've lost track over the last 3 weeks.
Karen Fann has been great.
Karen has done a great job. She is sticking to the mission. And the mission is to prove or disprove the alleged discrepancies in an election. Hard stop. That is what this audit is about. And I think that it is utterly disgraceful to see a news media that is they become such sycophants of a particular party that they no longer have any journalistic integrity. And that's probably why the vast majority of people no longer consult the media anymore, the news media. They don't look at MSNBC. MSNBC's tanked. CNN's tanked. NBC, CBS, ABC, they all repeat the same script. I don't know why they just don't go to the Chinese communist model where they have one spokesperson and they carry it on all the channels.
Our guest is Mark Fincham. Mark, what happens, let's say we learn that there has been multiple discrepancies in the voting. Then what? What if they say there are thousands
Or tens of thousands.
Right. Then what?
Well, I think that we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. And I know you're asking a hypothetical question, so I'm
Yes.
going to try and give you a hypothetical answer.
I would expect no less.
So our Constitution is an interesting document. And for anybody who is a constitutional scholar, or maybe not, go out to DuckDuckGo. Don't use Google, by the way, because they're going to filter whatever you search for. Go to DuckDuckGo and type in the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment deals with enumerated powers for the federal government. It also deals with those powers not granted to the federal government nor prohibited to the state government are reserved for the states and to the people. It's not verbatim, but it's pretty darn close.
Good enough.
What that's talking about is discrete and enumerated powers that have been given to the federal government. Anything that's not listed in that document is reserved to the states. So the federal powers are enumerated powers. The states' powers, because they are broad and unlimited,
Or whatever we decide.
they are plenary, which Latin, it doesn't need an adjective because plenary is all-encompassing. That means that the state has the authority to decertify. The state, meaning the state legislature, has the authority to decertify, reclaim. I'm not going to go as far as re-award or award to new person.
Mark, there are individuals in the Senate who I believe would never vote for.
Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't. I'm sure
I
they're-
don't look for a decertification.
Well, so when you have a mountain of evidence that says that the election cannot be certified, I would urge those individuals to think about what do they want their legacy to be. Because as we look at today's history books and we think about Benedict Arnold, and we think about Yorktown, and we think about the War of 1812, and we think about some of the trials that this nation has been through, there are names that are vilified, and there are names that have been lionized. So my question to them is, what do you want your legacy to be? Do you want to be that guy that history treats harshly because you didn't stand up for what the people asked you to stand up for? Now, you know, it's very difficult to govern a nation where at least 51%, if not more, do not believe that your election was legitimate.
I am amazed every time I see the figures, and it isn't just Republicans.
No, it's about 30% of Democrats.
There is
too.
a huge.
Yeah, and I think it's not an issue of they wanted Donald Trump. That's not the issue.
Right.
In fact, it's never been the issue. They wanted a free and fair election, an election fraud-free. Okay? So one of the things that we're working on right now at the legislature in response to the things that we anticipate seeing in this report, and the report's going to be the report. I mean, it's designed to present fact, not opinion. And that's an important thing to remember. We are working on right now a ballot concept that has a UV light reactive watermark that is, every time people see it, it's a wow moment.
I saw that.
And then also a QR code that the voter will be able to scan that code, record that number, and at some point during or after the election, once the image has been placed out on a public ledger, they'll be able to see their ballot, the ballot that they filled out. They'll be able to see that it was cast or counted as cast. Okay? So the other thing that does is helps us create an audit trail and helps us with chain of custody so that we know from the moment a sheet of paper that has these fraud countermeasures is printed to the moment that ballot has been spoiled in one way or another, whether it's been accidentally marked on or if the voter has used it or whatever that usage is, that ballot is now in the system and people will be able to go out and see it and count
Mark,
it.
I know that you want something done about the envelopes themselves that the ballots arrive in. They're gone. We have no way to prove right now that we have so many more ballots than there are envelopes, for example.
Right.
But we have no way to prove it.
So that's a good point, and that's going to come out in the audit report. One of the things that we want to, in fact, I'm submitting a public records request, I think it went out today or tomorrow, should go out tomorrow, for the ballot envelope images. I want to know how many ballot envelopes actually have signatures on them and how many didn't. Now, the left would have you believe that we should be counting ballots that don't have signatures.
Right.
Okay, hard stop. That is the only fraud countermeasure available to us to make sure that a real person casts that ballot. Because if it comes in blank, we have no idea if somebody just picked it up off the street and put it in.
Right.
No idea whether or not somebody purloined it out of a mailbox and decided that they were just going to vote for their guy and throw it in. So
We know that there are more ballots than envelopes. We know that.
that's my understanding.
Yes.
That's my understanding. But I want to wait until we see the report. I don't want to jump the gun. I think it's really important that we give the Senate because we get to this trade-off. Do we want speed or do we want accuracy? Now, in the I don't know, 5, 6, 7 cities that I've been in over the last several weeks, the number one question that everybody participates in. Everybody, I want you to raise your hand if accuracy is more important than speed.
And the people say yes.
100%.
Right.
Now, you turn the question around and do you want speed over accuracy? Nobody raises their hand. So we've grown accustomed to this idea that we want it now. I mean, we drive through Starbucks. Of course, I don't drive through Starbucks because I don't support them. But you got these long lines of people who are supposed to be getting a cup of coffee.
Does politics play an important part in decisions that you make? I believe so.
Perhaps.
Our guest is Mark Fincham. Let me take a quick break. This is the Jay Lawrence Program. I'm glad you're here.
You have a great business, terrific products, outstanding services. So where is everybody? It's simple. They don't know you're here. Why not? We didn't tell them. Well, let me introduce you to the Media Maven. She is the expert in getting your advertising message to the right people in the right places for the right prices. She can make your business a household name. She can make this claim because she's been doing this for years for large and small businesses. You need an expert who knows who to talk to and how to make the best deal for your business. She has the right radio and television contacts for your budget, whatever it is. That's Kathy, the Media Maven. She can put you on the map, the one that leads to success and prosperity. Call Kathy, the Media Maven, at 602-524-0947. That's Kathy, the Media Maven, at 602-524-0947.
When it comes to roof work, people ask, do you know a guy? Let me save you a little time and money. Call me. I'm Lori Clark, owner of Right Way Roofing. Our family started in the roofing business in 1963 on the promise there's only one way, the right way. We protect your roof with thick, waterproof, rubberized asphalt, not felt paper. So when it's time to repair or replace your roof and you need a guy, I'm your girl.
Right Way Roofing, and we do it right. We'll always keep you watertight.
This is a commercial for an auto dealership. Well, not really. It's a commercial for a salesperson at an auto dealership. The dealership is Wright Toyota on Frank Lloyd Wright. The salesperson is Jason Carter. I want you to remember that name, Jason Carter. My wife and I have bought our last 6 autos from him. I've sent relatives and friends to see Jason at Wright Toyota. If you're financing, Jason will work with the finance department to get you the lowest payments. Jason, here's what you're looking for. He knows what's there on the grounds. He knows where to find the exact automobile for which you're looking. And there's no time limit to his service. So there's no insistence that you buy the automobile he shows you. If it's a new Toyota or a formerly owned auto, any brand, any label, please call Jason Carter, 480-299-6474. Jason Carter, 480-299-6474.
You're watching Jay Lawrence on Hub Radio Phoenix.
Hello, this is Laura Paxton with the Jay Lawrence Show, the Disaster Report. Today I want to talk about Yellowstone. Now, if you go to the USGS, nothing to see here. Move along. No emergencies, no reason to fret. However, if you go to the places that I go to, which people watch this volcano all the time, such as Mary Greeley, Dutch Since, you see a little bit of a different picture emerging, and they've never seen what they're seeing now. There are different activities in the Norris Junction borehole. We've got screaming, and generally volcanoes don't scream unless they're ready to erupt. There'll be a long scream, and then there'll be a quiet, and then bam. And that's been going on for the last, as of 2 hours ago, Norris Junction borehole was screaming. And then we have also the Maple Creek 4 hours ago was also showing amazing heat signatures. Little West Thumb, Lake Butte, all of these are screaming right now. So we have to be very careful. If you're going to be out there vacationing, I would go someplace else, because we're going to have Boo Boo and Yogi Bear coming at us in pieces if we're not careful. So be careful out there, and remember to enjoy every minute of your life. Thank you very much. This is Laura Paxton with the Jay Lawrence Show.
What a great way to discuss pieces of boo-boo coming your way. That's a way to talk about a disaster. Our guest is Mark Fincham, and we have so many subjects. Mark is running for state representative. He is state representative, running for, what are you running for?
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, of course. What made you decide? I won't even go into that.
I was
There were-
drafted. So many people have said, "Look, you've gone the distance." In fact, the November 30th hearing, it wasn't about a political future. It was about doing what my constituents asked me to do.
Right.
We received thousands of emails, and what I found very disappointing is leadership in the House had no interest in doing a hearing. So I reached out to a couple of my colleagues, Leo Biasucci in the House, Sonny Borelli in the Senate, and I said, "Hey, are you getting the same emails that I'm getting, the same phone calls?" They, "Yeah." So what do you think about doing a hearing?
Borelli has been very
Yeah,
active.
Sonny has done a fabulous job. I've been very pleased to see both of those individuals out on the front lines, making sure that we are focused on service to our constituents. It's that transcends the audit. We're there because people put us in a position of authority and power and dominion, and they asked something very simple of us, and it was to make sure that our elections are scrutinized, make sure that we have transparent process, make sure that the election was fraud-free.
Mark, I have so many things written down here about which I was going to ask you. We're at one. We're at number one. Let's go to number two.
Sure.
Critical race theory. I know that you violently oppose it.
Vehemently. I wouldn't say violently. I don't. I try not to be violent.
Okay.
Yeah, except unless, of course, I'm going to the range, and then I just shoot the target up in a small spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully a small spot.
Oh, it's a tight group. It's a tight group.
Good.
I can do. Well, I'm not going to brag. I was
That would be different.
a pistol master and rifle expert. So
Good.
So I think the problem that we have is that over time, critical race theory has crept into the American education system, and it's teaching people to be self-loathing. It has very, very openly said that it wants to replace religion. This is essentially is the means by which Stalinism, Marxism, communism, whatever ism you want to talk about that is communism, creeps into or is force-fed into a society. And ultimately, the objective of that is to destroy the American experience, destroy the American experiment, where we really do we strive to respect the consent of the governed. And anybody who, what's astonishing about this, I had a meeting this afternoon for about 2 hours walking through critical race theory and some of the components of it. We have teachers in the public education system that are teaching this crap, and I'm going to call it crap, that have no idea what they're doing.
Tom Horn
They're
was
being
our guest.
told what to teach.
Tom Horn was our guest last week on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Tom was fighting critical race theory long before it had that title.
Right.
He was
Yeah,
down
back in the days when it was Common Core.
Right.
Yeah.
He actually was booed in Tucson when he went down there, Tucson Unified School District, your people.
Yeah, well, no, not my people. I'm not in TUSD, thank God. I'm actually in the Amphitheater School District.
I feel much better.
I don't, but
But Tom Horn was fighting this a long time ago.
Yeah, because that's the heart of leftism, the heart of communism. That's what they do. They don't debate people about the merits of an ideology. They just shout people down. And that's where I think that we're seeing the mix of critical race theory and the anti-audit world coming together. And it's not even the left anymore. It's now the uniparty. It's people in the Republican Party, people in the Democrat Party, people, frankly, the party of Davos. It's the party of London, the city of London. It's the worldwide communist network, which has now come out of the shadows. You used to say that guys like you and I were, that's conspiracy theory. Well, now they're saying, oh no, these guys were right. We want
All
to
the
take over
time.
the world.
We were there.
We want you to sit down and shut up, because we're going to rule the world and you're going to do what we tell you to do. Well, that's critical race theory.
And we have an administration right now that's going along with that.
Yeah, they've sold their soul to the devil.
Absolutely.
They are. I think it's an ongoing criminal enterprise that is now occupying the White House. I mean, you've got a two-tier justice system that if anybody else did what Hunter Biden's done, they'd be in prison forever. And, you know, the intimation that Joe Biden was the one who was orchestrating it on all of the texts and the documentation, that means that we have an installed president, not one who is elected. That means that the consent of the governed has now been replaced with the selection of the privileged.
And now Hunter Biden is actually charging people, pay me,
artwork.
and I'll get you in to see my father. Can you believe that?
And they wanted to go after Donald Trump for the
Right.
emoluments clause because he
Right.
was running hotels that foreign dignitaries would have stayed in.
Amazing.
What is amazing to me is the rank hypocrisy of the left and the sycophant media that refuses to hold them accountable. The media one day is going to have to face the people who have imprisoned them in what we are about to see happen to the world.
More and more people are angry at the media because of the way they have ignored the White House, the way they have ignored all that's going on in society, and they say everything's fine.
Yeah, the
And it
cancel
isn't-
culture.
Right, it
Yeah.
isn't fine.
It's not fine. And while the people who live in the bubble of Washington, D.C. may think it's fine, there's I'll go back to the book, Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrates.
Right.
There's a line in there that comes from Plato. Plato challenged Dionysus the tyrant, who was walking the streets of, I believe it was Syracuse, with his phalanx of guards. And Plato asked him, so what harm have you done that would require so much protection? Have you seen my country lately? There's a fence around the Capitol. There's concertina wire around the Capitol. There's troops manning checkpoints around the Capitol. Did you ever think that you would see that in the United States of America? I thought it was bad enough when they put up vehicle barriers that you couldn't get up to the White House or you couldn't get up to the Capitol.
Americans know this.
Of course they do.
Americans know what's going on.
Of course they do.
And they know it in spite of what they're being told.
That's right.
By newspapers, magazines,
About the only
network television.
Yeah, about the only media outlets anymore that are trustworthy. Epoch Times, great
Yes.
newspaper. Great newspaper. In fact, it's my understanding that they're establishing a Phoenix bureau.
Yes.
You've got NTD, which is their broadcast television program. Then you have One America News, Real America News, Revolver. I mean, what's interesting to see in the media world is this explosion of journalistic integrity outside of the traditional journalism channels. And I guess, when Dan Rather admitted to lying, that probably was the death knell, I think, for broadcast media. I mean, I remember as a kid growing up watching Huntley Brinkley. And, now understanding that even back then the media was co-opted by the government in broadcast media to portray the message in a certain way.
The Olympics
Yeah.
is saving the media. Because people you don't have to report on what's happening in Washington unless it's ping pong.
Exactly, which reminds me, I think it was President Trump said someplace near the end of the campaign, you better hope that I win, CNN, because if I don't, you'll be bankrupt. You won't have anything to cover. You will have nobody to bash.
Exactly.
And look what's happened. I've been in 5, 6, 7 different airports over the last 3 weeks. It used to be that CNN was ubiquitous. It was the airport television channel.
Right.
You know what's that? They've been replaced by the cooking channel. I was in Chicago O'Hare, and I'm watching this guy make a cherry pie, and I'm thinking, oh, that's the commercial. No, that was the whole show.
What about education, the system of
It's
education?
broken.
Is it broken?
It's seriously broken.
Is there any repair?
I think that we need to have a massive restructuring of our public education system. I would encourage parents to take their children out of public education. I would encourage them to find a co-op school, a charter school. If their school is failing, by the way, they're eligible for an ESA. But we've got a serious problem with public education, and money can't fix it.
All right. Seniors. Is there a plan somewhere?
I am one.
Aren't we all? But is there a plan somewhere to help seniors in some way, either financially or find jobs for seniors, raise the limits on when retirement is expected? What could we do?
I think the best thing that probably the best answer I can give you there is we are all responsible for our own retirement. Do not count on longevity at a company to provide you that nest egg. That's one of the things that came along with the end of pensions and the introduction of 401ks and 457s and 395s and all of the various, I guess 395 isn't a real plan, but
When you just thought of
Keoghs and all of these other retirement instruments. Those were the plan to help seniors before they became seniors plan wisely for their retirement years. And now is a really good time for all the younger folks that are watching your show. Do not rely on your employer to provide you a retirement plan. You are going to be much better off tithing 10%, saving 10%, and living on 80%.
Our guest is Mark Finchem, and I'm glad he's running for Secretary of State. I'm Jay Lawrence. Glad you're here.
When it comes to roof work, people ask, do you know a guy? Let me save you a little time and money. Call me. I'm Lori Clark, owner of Right Way Roofing. Our family started in the roofing business in 1963 on the promise there's only one way, the right way. We protect your roof with thick, waterproof, rubberized asphalt, not felt paper. So when it's time to repair or replace your roof and you need a guy, I'm your girl.
We're Right Way Roofing and we do it right. We'll always keep you watertight.
This is a commercial for an auto dealership. Well, not really. It's a commercial for a salesperson at an auto dealership. The dealership is Wright Toyota on Frank Lloyd Wright. The salesperson is Jason Carter. I want you to remember that name, Jason Carter. My wife and I have bought our last 6 autos from him. I've sent relatives and friends to see Jason at Wright Toyota. If you're financing, Jason will work with the finance department to get you the lowest payments. Jason, here's what you're looking for. He knows what's there on the grounds. He knows where to find the exact automobile for which you're looking. And there's no time limit to his service. So there's no insistence that you buy the automobile he shows you. If it's a new Toyota or a formerly owned auto, any brand, any label, please call Jason Carter, 480-299-6474. Jason Carter, 480-299-6474.
I'm Senator Sonny Borelli, and when I come to Phoenix, I always want to be informed, so I tune into Hub Radio Phoenix. You want to be informed? I suggest you do the same. Make sure you tune in.
You have a great business, terrific products, outstanding services. So where is everybody? It's simple. They don't know you're here. Why not? We didn't tell them. Well, let me introduce you to the Media Maven. She is the expert in getting your advertising message to the right people in the right places for the right prices. She can make your business a household name. She can make this claim because she's been doing this for years for large and small businesses. You need an expert who knows who to talk to and how to make the best deal for your business. She has the right radio and television contacts for your budget, whatever it is. That's Kathy, the Media Maven. She can put you on the map, the one that leads to success and prosperity. Call Kathy, the Media Maven, at 602-524-0947. That's Kathy, the Media Maven, at 602-524-0947.
You're watching Jay Lawrence on Hub Radio Phoenix.
Our guest, Mark Finchem, running for Secretary of State. We're so glad to welcome him here. the future of legislators. Now, you're termed out. I would have been termed out 8 years.
Right.
How do you get people interested in running for office? It's so easy to vote for.
Yeah, it's an interesting recipe. You have to have somebody who has the ability to walk away from work or has a job close by that they can get to and from work
Right.
when we're not in session. Because I think we have fooled ourselves into believing that Arizona is well served by a part-time legislature.
We are not part-time.
We might have been well served back in the days when we rode a horse and buggy from Tucson to the Capitol. But I will tell you that our world has become far more complicated. It has become far more entwined in political intrigue. So we've got, for example, a governor who we should have held in check, but we weren't in session to hold him in check. So there are a couple of things that I would admonish folks, younger set, and I mean 35 to 45 years old. Your political representation is a team sport. It's an action sport. It's a community sport. You have got to be involved in your own governance or someone will govern for you. Now, it's one thing to give your consent to be governed. But when you don't see people governing the way you would, there's your clue. It's time for you to get involved. Whether it's at a PC level, I have run into a number of young ladies recently who have kids in public school. And I said, one of the ways you could get involved in politics is go to the school board meetings. And if you have 2 or 3 of you that go, it will be maybe less boring. But the following week, everybody bring a friend. And then the week after that, everybody who was there the week before, bring a friend. Before you know it, you go from 2 or 3 to 6 to 12 to 20 to 30. And suddenly the school board is saying, what just happened?
Right.
People are paying attention. We're not going to shove critical race theory through the door and force feed this to our students because these parents look very upset. And then the next step is to run for school board, run for that state or for that PC position, run for your precinct committee position. Excuse me. And that's how you get involved in being a political person. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who has an interest should make themselves a candidate. Quite often, all of the folks who stand behind the candidate, they're the real power. The candidate is just the spokesperson for the constituents. But I think that it's really important that we identify strong-willed people who are willing to listen to their constituents, who are willing to get up and not afraid to get their teeth bashed in. I still have all of mine. But
And they look good in a smile.
well, they look good for right now, but the idea that the radical left will come after people who run for office scares a lot of people away. So you've got to have a strong support network around you.
And if you have anything in your background of which you are ashamed, they will find it and get you.
They're going to try, but I mean, I've got skeletons in my closet.
Oh, you've had people going
And-
after you
and-
wildly.
And I asked, when I was first asked to run for office, I said something to Al Melvin, Senator Al Melvin.
Sure.
He said, hey, we're going to have a vacancy. We'd like you to consider running. And I said, well, I got some skeletons in the closet. I've been married more than once. And he says, okay, here's the response I want you to give to the media. Bill Clinton. And that's always stuck with me. It's
Right.
like, okay, if that's the high bar in politics, I can step over that in my sleep.
Political party. Do we need another one? Do we need a couple more?
No, I think that's a huge mistake. And in fact, Jefferson, Hamilton, even Madison warned against factions and the overpopulation, if you will, of political factions.
We have them now, Mark.
Well, we do.
have political factions.
Well, we do within parties, but understand that the party is there to provide a platform. And whether you like somebody's position on the platform or not, I find it interesting that the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party is that Republicans, you have a lot of people that want to show up and run for office. Democrats, it's more like, no, we're going to choose our candidate. Thank you very much.
And here is the candidate we've chosen.
Yeah,
Let's all back him.
So sit down and shut up.
That's it.
Where with Republicans, we have this robust debate. And I think that they're one of the things that's missing in our political discourse. And I would really challenge, the folks from all parties, whether they're libertarian or independents or whoever runs, be prepared with your best ideas. Don't come in throwing mud. In fact, you're going to see in this coming election, I hope that we don't see any mud throwing. I'm not going to be throwing any mud because I'm one of those people that believes in if you don't have solutions when you come to the table, you don't belong at the table. That's one of the reasons I'm looking at the Ballot Integrity Project, that if people want to go out to my website, votefincham.com, that's VOTE, F like Frank, IN like Nancy, CHEM like Mark.com. You can actually see a very short video, it's about 3 minutes long, that deals with the Arizona Ballot Integrity Project. And it's the watermark ballot. We are still mapping out the process that would bring. But imagine, if you will, in the future state of voting, that you fill out your ballot, you mail it in a couple of days, and you scan the QR code so that you know what your ballot number is. You send that off, and it goes out onto a blockchain or a public ledger of some kind, and you can actually see the ballot that you sent by U.S. mail and verify that that's my ballot. That's how I voted. That, I think, ends up being, can we say that it replaces a forensic audit? Probably not yet, but
Mark,
soon.
let me deal again with political parties.
Sure.
The Democrats will pick a candidate and they will vote for that candidate. They will do everything to support that candidate. The Republicans have so many issues with which we agree or disagree.
Yeah.
And that's where a political party suffers. I don't think
Maybe.
I don't think
Maybe.
it's
I disagree, I think. See, this is
Okay.
an example of that. We disagree.
we're allowed.
So, my good friend, Senator Eddie Farnsworth, and I,
Oh.
in fact, the last day that he was in the House, I came up to him and said, I think I finally figured out the difference between Republicans and Democrats. He kind of chuckled. He said, what's that? I said, well, Democrats are like still water. Republicans are like mineral water. We're this effusive bunch that is always coming up with ideas as opposed to getting in line and adopting one idea no matter whether it's right or wrong. And I think that is the power of politics. It's be prepared to debate the issues and solutions to those issues.
The bad news is the angers that come from that debate. There are no angers in the Democrats. They have made up their minds. Here's what it's going to be.
Au contraire, I think the Democrats are extremely angry.
Oh, of course, but it isn't at them. It isn't at things within the Democrat Party.
No, and I think it's not just Democrats. I mean, you've got a faction of the Republican Party that has fallen for the whole self-loathing thing that is taught by critical race theory. And, if you hate yourself, there's other places you could live where you could probably love yourself. Why do you do that in Arizona?
There is so much argument within take pro-choice, pro-life. Here are examples that will force major debate, and it shouldn't be a debatable issue.
Yeah. So I'm a constitutional originalist.
Right.
And if we refer to the preamble of our Constitution, it speaks to secure these freedoms, these liberties for ourselves and
Our posterity.
with a capital P.
Right.
Okay? They're talking about the children yet unborn. So for anyone to say that they can justify the taking of a human life that is defenseless, I can't abide by that.
Nor can I. However, it is still a debatable issue. When you have to go to the Constitution and the preamble to the Constitution and pick on a word to determine whether or not a child's life is important, I think it's going further than the people who debate the issue really want to go, Mark.
Well, that could be, but remember that the Constitution was written for the common man to read and
Indeed.
understand and enforce. It was not written to require lawyerly skills, but the lawyerly among us have tried to make it very complicated. And I think that the American people are smarter than that. They know what the truth is, and if they study the truth will set them free.
Our guest, Mark Finchem. Mark is running for Secretary of State. He is a marvelous candidate, and if you have any question,
Get you a shirt.
give him a website for shirts.
All right, so you can go to www.votefinchem.com, and the shirt's free. Just asking for a modest contribution. I think it ranges from $35 to $45, depending upon shirt size.
Thanks, everybody. Good night. I'll see you next week, next Thursday evening.
Thank you, Jay.